Ann Dwyer is standing by. Crain Chicago Business is back with a who's who in Chicago business 2024. This is a great list of people that Chicagoans should know, that many do know, that some of you will know and go, how the hell did they get on the list? And it's a great argument starter. It's a great argument settler. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great service from Crain's. By the way, Crain's still doing great journalism every day. Mm-hmm. It's a very challenging time for print. They do a great job online, great job on social. And, my old pal Todd Manley is a big part of the Crain's podcast side of things and was nice enough to connect us with Ann Dwyer. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and thanks for your kind words.
I'd put you on the list.
Well, I was going to say, I wondered if you were calling me about this to complain that you're not on the list.
I felt like it was probably a typo.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's just a little oversight. We'll correct it.
Yeah.
I'm not on the list either, Steve, so, we're even.
Apparently, in a pitch meeting, somebody brought up the somewhat influential list, and they said, well, we'll see if we can get to that.
Yeah. Well, you've got a platform here. I mean, I've been in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and heard your
sure.
Yeah. Town. So,
well, that's why we're all working to keep that platform going and be able to say things. Look, I think it's important that people know these folks because these are folks that are at the tip of the spear for all of our lives in various places. And there's many bios on each. And when you go and you read this, you can find out about folks. This is a cool resource, and for a lot of things. If I'm looking for work, I'm reading this thing top to bottom, and understanding who's on it. But anyway, any surprises, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but surprises of people you go, oh, yeah, that person's getting it done.
Right. I should probably back up and tell you a little bit about how we go about selecting people to be on this, and that kind of might answer the surprises question. I mean, we mothballed the Who's Who project for a couple of years under a previous editor, I think because it had gotten a little bloated. It had gotten up to about 600, 700 names. And once, you've got everybody and their mother on there, it starts to lose some of its cachet, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we brought it back a couple of years ago, and this is really a newsroom-wide, purely editorial effort. We just cull reporters' notebooks for the names of the people that really are moving things right now. And so it's not about nominating. It's not about, people applying or anything like that. It truly is a reflection of our understanding of the landscape now. And, among the surprises in here really are how many new names there are. And I think that's attributable to the fact that we are in a really almost like tectonic shift in our politics in this city.
100%.
With entirely new waves of progressive leaders coming to the fore. And so there are going to be names and faces in here that I think for a typical reader are going to be very fresh, especially out of City Hall, especially out of the county. In the government category.
I love the list, and I love how you include entertainment, restaurants. How do you narrow it down? Because there are so many influential people in every industry in this city. Is the hard part really just narrowing it down?
That is absolutely the hardest part. It's, what we wind up asking ourselves a lot, especially when we have more than one person from a particular organization is, can this person make a call on a big issue without bumping it upstairs? And
no, that's cool. That's actually a great way to make it.
And really, that's one way to kind of get to filter it out to the people who truly are the power people, the decision makers that you need to know if you need to get stuff done in town. And that's kind of the unofficial title that we have for this when we're working on it internally is who really are the people who can, if you need something done, you can pick up the phone and call them and it'll happen. And once you start to look at it through that lens, you realize that the number of people is truly smaller. This year we've got about 400 names. And sure, I mean, yes, there are tons of other people that are connected to these people who, of course, deserve recognition. But, when push comes to shove, these are the folks who really are the ones who can get something done with a phone call.
You know what I really like, Ann, is that you ask them, most of them or many of them, what their first paying jobs were. And it's so cool to go back and look. Like Chevy Humphrey, who runs perhaps the biggest museum in the world with the MSI, worked at Baskin-Robbins. Or Anthony Freud, runs the Lyric, has been all over the world. He was a theater manager in London in 1980. So it's very cool to see what their backstories are. I like that.
Yeah, I love that detail too, because it humanizes people. It brings folks, even some of the most powerful people on this list, Tom Ricketts or Danny Wirtz or, just every CEO on the list. And bottom line, these are all people who started somewhere. And the other thing I should note about a lot of these people, having met many of them, is a lot of these people are just simply nice people, people that you want to know. You don't get to a position of this kind of power and influence without being someone who's approachable, who knows how to deal with other people and have, high emotional intelligence. And so we found this feature, actually, I'm glad you zeroed in on it, of asking people for their personal backstories, is a feature of the newer version of this list. It was an idea that came to me from the newsroom. And, because before we just had basically name, rank, and serial number. Now we're really drilling down into the personal side of these folks, because it helps to round out your picture of who these people are. And also, frankly, it does give sort of icebreakers, conversation starters. If you're going to be, doing a sales pitch to one of these people, or you're going to be going to a function where one of these people are going to be present, it helps to have some connection to look for something that
100%. Yeah, it is useful that way. Now, I will say this. It would be cool to be in the room when you guys are arguing about somebody and whether or not they should be on the list or not, just to overhear that. Do you get the final vote?
Yeah. Actually, it's really the final vote is our publisher, Jim Kirk, but he and I work on this very closely together, and I can't think of any person who's on this list that I object to or vice versa. It's really me and Jim.
It's a great list.
And there is got to be a lot of feedback from this list. Like I said, it's a great bar argument, fight starter or fight solver. But I noticed a couple names that popped out that are not my favorite people, but they certainly have influence, whether it's the amount of money they control in the business they control or whatever. So what type do you hear from readers? Do you hear from people going, that guy? Or what do they say?
It's funny. First, these things come in waves. The initial wave is the calls from PR reps for people who are mad that they're not on the list.
Sure.
I mean, that,
no.
Yep.
That happens every time. And sometimes those calls are legit, and we go, oh, gee, that was an oversight. And then we make sure that we go in and add people. But for the most part, readers thank us for doing it, because I don't think there's anybody else in town who's, attempting to chronicle power the way we are here.
Right.
And, it maybe for a general interest audience, this isn't the kind of thing that might be of interest. But if you're in business in Chicago and you're pitching for funding, or you've got an idea you want to get in front of, a company that might be able to put some money behind what you're doing, this list is essential. So,
totally agree.
For the most part, we've had people, especially when we brought it back, we had people saying, why'd you let it go? You should have been doing this all along.
Well, and you fixed that. You brought it back. So I assume it's not going anywhere. Let the arguments begin or continue. and also the compliments. Feel free to drop a note that says, nice job, Crains, because that's what I'm saying. I'm glad you guys did this.
Me too.
And for people that want to find it, you got it pinned on the website, I'm sure. What about the app?
We do. ChicagoBusiness.com, who's Who 2024 will get you there on any platform.
It's a great list.
Nice job. And
thanks, Ann.
Thanks for taking our call.
Thank you.
There you go. Ann Dwyer.
I'm glad that they do this too. And again, that they break it into the different categories: education, entertainment, food. It's great. Very complete list.
Ann Dwyer and Jim Kirk doing a great job there. And Jim Kirk, our old pal from the Chicago Tribune days.
Love Jim.
Great guy.